My name is Lorenzo. You can call me a good-for-nothing. I dropped out of high school and have held various part-time jobs at convenience stores, factory lines, video rental shops, you name it. But I always got fired for lacking manners or something of that sort. Here I was, a 25-year-old, without a stable job, the very definition of a deadbeat. My days were filled with endless gaming and watching videos on the smartphone my parents paid for. There was no dream, no hope in the future for someone like me who lived at the bottom of society.
Lorenzo, it's time to eat.
My dad's loud voice echoed through the house as he came in through the front door. Ever since my mom passed away when I was in elementary school, it was just the two of us. He never complained about my slovenly lifestyle. He placed a somewhat luxurious box meal on the small table. "What's this about?" I asked. Smiling, he said,
One of our big clients brought it into the office. Normally it wouldn't trickle down to a janitor like me, but Miss Anderson in accounting slipped it my way.
My dad was the type of guy who made friends easily with his cheery demeanor. That's probably why he often got treats from this Anderson lady. Unlike me, an introvert who struggled with social interactions, he was the complete opposite. Maybe living with him was why I could coast along in life as a jobless singleton at 25 without thinking too much about it. I never really thought about finding a job or how dire my situation was if I continued on like this. It was just the way things were. One day, my dad came home early from work and said something he'd never said before.
Lorenzo, I'm gonna get you a job.
I was taken aback. He had never once pushed me to work before, nor had I asked him to find me a job. Why? I asked. Could it be that my seemingly carefree dad has been wanting me to start working?
Miss Anderson wants to meet you.
He responded cheerily. Huh? My confusion only deepened. Why was he introducing me to a job just so I could meet this office lady? Still, I was feeling a spark of motivation to do something, so I decided to give it a go. The first day of work came. I thought my dad would be coming with me, but it turned out I was going alone. I followed the directions he gave me and, using a map app on my phone, I found the place. To say I was surprised would be an understatement. It was a large corporation with a stylish exterior that made it look like a shopping mall. Even though I was just going to be cleaning this building, the thought of coming here every day made me feel a bit more accomplished. With my heart pounding, I stepped into the office building and went into the room assigned to the cleaning staff. Inside, there were 3 ladies and a man.
Are you Lorenzo by any chance?
One of the ladies asked excitedly. On her chest was a name tag that read Anders. Yes. As soon as I answered, the ladies and the man excitedly gathered around me, chattering away.
You're quite handsome. You don't really look like Leo. Well, maybe around the eyes.
Leo must be my dad, whose full name is Leonard. Despite meeting me for the first time, they were all incredibly friendly. Just from that, I could tell how much they admired my father. Anderson, White, Ramirez, Scott. I had heard these names many times from my dad, and now I was working with these people. Being a little clumsy and rough around the edges, the job of a cleaner was a bit tough for me. If I ever tried to cut corners thinking no one would notice, somehow they always did. They all doted on me more than I thought possible, but it didn't feel bad at all. There was a warmth in each of these people working as cleaners. So unusual for me, I didn't mind going to work. However, unbeknownst to me, my dad had quit his job around the time I started. It was surprising, as I thought he had been cleaning at that company since as far back as I can remember, and it was not time for his retirement yet. But he wouldn't tell me why.
Well, it doesn't matter,
was all he would say, brushing me off in his usual way. To be honest, I didn't really have much interest in my dad's affairs, so I didn't probe any further. Maybe it was because my attention was more focused on the outside world since I started working as a cleaner. However, there was one thing in my seemingly smooth transition into working society that bothered me. I was mopping the hallway when some full-time employees finished a meeting and came down the elevator. There were 2 men and 2 women around my age. I had just wiped the floor with a wet mop, so I quickly warned them, "The floor might be wet. Please be careful with your step." Of course, I wasn't originally the kind of person who would think to say such things. It was something I learned from the ladies. Then one of the women noticed and responded.
Thank you.
Then one of the male employees looked down at me working on the floor and chuckled. Huh, I thought, did he just laugh at me? He quickly averted his eyes and disappeared, so I couldn't confirm his intentions. For a moment, I felt a bit annoyed, but I decided to forget it, thinking it might just be my imagination. However, the male employee's sarcastic attitude was not just my imagination. The next day, as I was cleaning a different location, that same male employee passed by. I noticed him but pretended not to see him as I didn't want to interact with him. Then, splash! For a moment, I didn't know what had happened, but then I realized that the bucket in front of me had been knocked over and my pants and shoes were soaking wet. As I looked up in surprise, the male employee was standing in front of me with his foot exactly where the bucket had been. No way, I thought, but it was exactly what I had feared.
Sorry, I bumped into it.
He said in a monotone, with a smirk as if he was looking down on me. You did that on purpose. Don't mess with me. I almost said that without thinking, but just as I was about to open my mouth, the female employee who was with him rushed over to me.
Are you okay? Do you need a tissue?
She called out, and I swallowed my words in the heat of the moment. Oh, I'm fine. I was taken aback and couldn't say anything else. Then the male employee said,
More, cleaners are here to clean. You don't have to do it for them.
To which the woman called Moore responded,
But
she's the type of person who can't leave someone in need. Guess this woman named Moore didn't realize that the male employee knocked it over on purpose, I thought.
that's the only job they can do. It would be pitiful to take it away from them. Let's go.
Hearing the line the man said, I was sure he was picking a fight with me. I couldn't retort because the female employee intervened, but I decided to tell him off next time I saw him. I thought so, but that day, I was confronted with the shocking truth. When I came home, my father, who usually returns home before me, was strangely absent, which puzzled me. Then I found a note on the refrigerator. The note read, I'm at Demultiplied Hospital. For more details, talk to Dr. Martinez. My father has cancer and has only half a year to live. That's what the doctor told me when I arrived at the hospital. According to the doctor, the cancer had been discovered about half a year ago, around the time I got the job as a cleaner through my father. Could it be that my father, knowing he would die soon, handed the job over to me? I couldn't comprehend the fact that my energetic father might soon be gone. When I went to his room, he was lying there connected to a lot of tubes. I hadn't usually taken a good look at his face, but has my father always looked this frail? I wondered. The signs of his illness may have been appearing much earlier, and yet I was completely unaware. I've been staying at home with a healthy body, worrying him all the time. What a terrible son I've been. Could I have done anything for him? As I was uncharacteristically contemplating these things, he slowly opened his eyes. Seeing me silent, unable to find words, he said,
You're making a sorry face. That's why I didn't want to tell you.
He said in his usual tone. All I could do was cry.
How's the job? You're meeting interesting people, aren't you?
I nodded vigorously, wiping away tears. Mr. Anderson would give me sweets almost every day, and both Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Scott looked after me like their own son. Mr. White, the only male, was more than 20 years older than me, but he was a lot of fun, like a friend.
They're my favorite people. They're warm, and they always give me energy. They've encouraged me to raise my precious son, Lorenzo.
When he who usually jokes around said such a thing, I felt even sadder. I felt like the end was really close.
That's why, Lorenzo, I gave you that job. So you can live a joyful life, laughing foolishly even when I'm gone. Cherish it.
Saying so, he patted my back. Somehow his touch felt feeble and unforgettable. The next day, I went to work again, still unable to sort out my feelings. Probably, Mr. Anderson and the others know about his situation. Even when I couldn't respond properly to their usual cheerful greetings, they didn't ask why. Their warmth almost made me tear up again. But there was a person who cruelly twisted the knife in my wound. I was cleaning the open hall when it happened. Something lightly fell from above. So when I looked up, tissues, crumpled paper, empty lunchboxes, chopsticks, flyers shredded into tiny pieces, and so on, fell one after another. I didn't understand what was happening at first, but when the trash can fell, I quickly understood.
Oh, I dropped it. Sorry.
A male employee was standing on the floor above. Seeing me covered in garbage from head to toe, the man laughed so hard that it was almost overbearing.
Well, it suits you, bottom feeder who can only be a cleaner, to be covered in trash.
The man who said this was wearing a brand new, wrinkle-free suit and shiny shoes. On the other hand, I was covered in garbage from head to toe, wearing a worn-out gray work uniform and dirty sneakers. I thought he might not be completely wrong to call me a bottom feeder. But even if others see me as a bottom feeder, this is a warm place that my father prepared for me. I couldn't forgive him for insulting it. My workplace is filled with wonderful people, the exact opposite of this twisted character who harasses others. I wanted to argue back, but I thought that if I, a mere cleaner, lost my temper with this obviously elite employee, it wouldn't end well. I can't let go of this place that my father went to such lengths to give to me. I was so frustrated and sad, desperately suppressing the urge to fight back. All I could do was clench my fists.
Can't you argue back because it's too true? You should thank me for giving you more cleaning work.
All I could do was listen to him laughing annoyingly as usual. That's when it happened.
What a mess.
I heard such a voice from behind and turned around. There stood a middle-aged man with the presence of someone important. From hearing the others call him that, I knew he was the president of the company. I am sure I'm going to get scolded for littering the hall even though I'm a cleaner. Thinking that, I said, "I'm sorry, I'll clean it up right away." And I quickly began picking up the trash. My only thought was, I can't get fired here and now. But the president said something unexpected.
Why are you apologizing? He's the one who made the mess.
With that, he called over the unpleasant male employee.
Cleaners are not here to clean up after your mess. Clean up after yourself.
The male employee turned red with frustration and tried to argue back. But the president cut him off.
Did I say something difficult? It's a simple thing that even a child understands,
he said. The male employee quickly cleaned up the trash and left in a hurry. Thank you very much. I never thought that the president would have witnessed the whole thing.
No, it's me who should thank you. Thank you so much for always keeping the company clean.
I'm just doing my job. The president, who expressed his gratitude to me in a polite manner, was a very tasteful and gentlemanly person. Then he asked me,
"Are you Leo's son?"
Leo was the nickname of my father, which Mr. White had also mentioned before. I was surprised at how high my father's communication skills were, as even the president was calling him by that nickname.
Actually, Leo and I were childhood friends. I was able to start this company thanks to his support.
What? I was very surprised by the revelation I had not expected at all. I had never heard that my father was involved in starting such a big company, and I had never even imagined it.
But Leo has his own personality, doesn't he? He said he doesn't like the stuffy business management and asked to be a cleaner.
I certainly agreed that this claim was very much like my father.
Leo has a talent for bringing people together. I've always admired him for that.
I felt strange to hear my father praised in such a way, but as a son, I was indeed happy.
I was really looking forward to having you join us when I heard you were coming.
The president said that to me as well, but at the same time, it made me realize again that I had nothing. I don't have any talents or anything. I feel guilty for making you say that. I said something self-deprecating with a bit of a laugh. But then the president said this to me.
That's not true at all.
As I was surprised, he continued.
I don't mean to brag, but I've been doing this job for decades. I've seen a lot of people. So I think I have a good eye for people. Just from watching you for a few minutes, I can tell. You're a fine young man with a strong sense of justice and a very warm heart.
I had never been told something like that by anyone before. Come to think of it, since I started this cleaning job that my father introduced me to, I felt that many things had changed. I no longer dreaded going to work, and I began to enjoy my connection with the outside world. I was surrounded by warm people and was able to work hard. I learned to be patient for the sake of others and to consider their feelings. It was all thanks to my father. Thank you. From that day on, I stopped setting limits for myself. I wondered how much I had been tormenting myself by thinking that I couldn't do it, that I had no talent. Half a year later, my father passed away. An unbelievable number of people came to the funeral, and I realized how much my father was loved by those around him. I'm not as sociable as my father was, but I always want to cherish the important people who are close to me. Now, I am still working as a cleaner, a job that my father left me, and I spend each day with a smile. Thank you, Dad, really.